Welcome to Paper Pop.
A happy voice with a slightly raised pitch, accompanied by a brief smile of greeting, but it seemed to reflect an unnamed sadness. Lynn, the image of an Asian girl working in a chicken shop on a street corner in California, had been very familiar to people in this area since the previous year. In the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, Lynn's family was in debt. Her father passed away. Her mother was hospitalized for treatment while she had studied at the University of California, Los Angeles. All of Lynn's joy was a coping mechanism for getting through the day's work. Lynn would occasionally look out the chicken shop window at the gloomy twilight sky, which always left her with a sense of inner calm and peace. After a busy working day, she dragged her body back home. She walked across streets and alleys, and then continued on the lengthy path covered by snow. Looking through the books in the corner of the house, where the unfinished homework was still there, looking over the wall to see the photo of the family smiling and happy together. How many memories suddenly come rushing back. Then, 1, 2, 3 drops. Tears began to fall from her eyes. Suddenly, she smiled without realizing it. As she looked up at the night sky for the second time, her heart was void and she yearned to be dissolved into the vastness of space, much like the falling snowflakes.
Hey, Lynn, I noted that you had not finished lesson 3 the day before. Have you completed it today? This afternoon, the pizza that you like is being served at the canteen. Would you like to come with me?
It was none other than the boy of a distinguished family sitting at the table next to her husband. Her classmates didn't care about Lynn. They were sure to make fun of her whenever they could, or they always gossiped behind her back. However, Lynn's silence attracted Huston. As she closed the curtains to keep the sun's glare out of her thoughts, Lynn lowered her head to the table and sat there in silence, her eyes closed and her body slumped. She couldn't stop thinking about her head teacher complaint about the final exam yesterday, which was making her even more stressed. Suddenly, Lynn was startled when her phone abruptly began to ring.
Hello, may I inquire if you are her patient relative? Yes, it's me. What the matter, nurse? I regret to inform you that your mother died after more than 30 minutes in the emergency room due to a severe convulsion. Please contact family members to complete the procedure and return the patient home. We sincerely regret this.
The phone slipped from her grasp and landed on the ground. Her thoughts were racing around in her head. She was at a loss for words, and her entire body appeared to be frozen. All of her senses had become numb because the one and only hope was lost, and all of the daily efforts vanished. She dragged her heavy footstep up to the rooftop when her mind continued to dwell on impoverished and tourist mother. Hudson was about to go to the rooftop to kill the time because he didn't want to return home. When Hudson spotted Lynn, he followed her stealthily. He quickly hid himself in a corner to observe her actions. Lynn approached the railing unconsciously and without hesitation.
Don't stop, Lynn!
He shouted in his heart. He was terrified that she would do something stupid. He saw her hands grasping the iron bar and climbing up. Her legs were placed neatly on the railing, and she was about to jump down. Hudson immediately grabbed her waist and sharply pulled her back, both of them falling back onto the hard cement floor. Although Hudson felt very painfully, he still held Lynn tightly and asked,
Are you okay? Don't do such foolish things. Let go of me. I told you let go of me. I really lost everything. Mom left me. You don't understand. Everything is over. Please leave me alone.
Lynn started in a trembling voice, as if someone had just taken her chance to free herself. She struggled away from Huston, but this time she didn't cry. Her eyes completely turned emotionless to everything.
If you don't go through what I have to endure, how can you understand? I'm not as lucky as you, so don't use those words to tell me what to do.
When he heard the word luck, Hudson's eyes suddenly became sharp. His face was cold, like he was trying to hold back the tears that were about to fall.
Yes, I'm very lucky. Lucky you are saying here that I was born into a rich, happy family, right? But you don't know the child living in that family suffered from the pressure of his stepmother and half-brother when he was only 7 years old. That boy lived alone in his family, and I never felt loved by anyone else. Every day, I try to find my own way out of this emotionless world, but I never think of the stupid way like you. Lynn, I know that your mother is still silently watching you every moment and hoping that you will live well.
And then, the pain of losing her mother suddenly flared up. She shed tears after trying so many times. She hoped, she sobbed, she moaned. Time went by, and no one said a word to anyone, but everything seemed to be gradually released and shared. The pain seemed to be carried away by the gentle breeze on the rooftop. After waiting for Lynn to come down, Huston used his two hands to rub Lynn's small shoulders.
You have to continue to live on because of your parents' expectations. You have to live well for their part. Now, let me take you home.
Lynn was quiet and hesitant. She was afraid that after leaving here, would she be able to continue to face and overcome her meaningless life? How could she be strong enough to face the fact that her mother was no longer alive? Suddenly, Huston's hand came into her hand and pulled her away. She looked at him and then down at the hand holding hers. She seemed to be motivated to move on. This moment in her mind, she no longer thought anything. She believed Huston. She believed herself to make it through. The two held hands and walked on the familiar road to Lynn's house, but now she felt the noise of everything around her. She also realized the broken lamp a few days ago had now illuminated a corner of a street. She looked up at the light and smiled. Lynn was startled when the curtain was abruptly pulled back, allowing the light to shine directly into her eyes. Lynn jolted awake at 7 in the morning, rubbing her eyes as she looked up at the sky, and she immediately was in Huston's warm embrace. She turned to face him and gazed at him with adoration in her eyes.
That's you. Thank you, Huston.